Well, April is here, and that means there is a whole new host of different miniatures to get out there. So in this video, I'll be going through some of my favourite miniature creators that you can sign up for on My Mini Factories Tribes or over on Patreon. Now throw down in the comments who is your favourite creator, let everybody know, share the love and all of that. Also give me feedback on these videos since everyone seems to really like the last one. Do you want them into separate videos? Do you want sci-fi separate, D&D separate and all of that? Or do you like them just being one big long video like this one is? I'll have it all timestamped below, so if you're in for sci-fi or fantasy, you can skip to the bit that you like. So let's kick it off with fantasy, and the first creator is Titanforge. Now I either love them or I hate them. Sometimes I really like their sets, sometimes I'm just absolutely not keen on them. But this month I really like them. They've gone for very chaos. It's meant to be like Norse warriors, but these are absolute chaos warriors. So let's go through some of these. So like I mentioned, they are their chaos Norse warriors. So you've got this big old chaos warrior on a big old like chaotic death dragon. The only thing I don't like about this sculpt, because there's a lot to like about it, is the wings. The wings look kind of meh. But you know what? If you're a good painter, unlike me, you could probably do something pretty special with that. You've also got, again, Chaos Lord on this rhino thing as well. Looks pretty fun. And then you do start to get into more like the savage, chaos, Norsey ones. I mean, you've got this guy on a reindeer here. Looks fantastic. He's on foot as well. And then you've got all your Chaos Knights as well. So a lot to like here. And then they've got him on foot. I have no idea what this trumpet is, but I'm here for it. I really like this. There's a lot to like about this set. And it's not just the Chaos Warriors as well, you get gnomes, which you don't really see enough gnomes in fantasy and all of that, so that's kind of fun. I really like this like little gnome mech suit as well. It's like a Grey Knight, but gnome version of it. Yeah, I really like this month's fantasy set. I think it looks fantastic. There's a lot to like, some great chaotic bits, and then balanced with these really kind of like goofy fun gnomes as well, and then you get all the like little takeaway heroes and stuff like that. So, one worthwhile checking out. Next on the list is Artisan Guild, and they've got dwarves on rhinos. And let's load those up. Now again, Artisan Guild, if you're not familiar with them, they're really good at creating like different war bands. So if you're into like Warcry, for example, if you like doing more skirmish games, then they have a lot to like. This month's Artisan Guild set has a lot of good stuff going for it. Some fantastic dwarven sculpts. And if you're into any of your fantasy dwarves, anything like that, these are great. You know, you've got some great foot soldiers. They're all interchangeable as well, so if you want to change out the weapons, the hands and stuff like that, you can do it. Some fantastic looking hero units. But where it really shines is you've got like the rhinos. So you've got these like rhino warriors, which look awesome. Like hairy rhinos, fantastic. And then the big old mammoth as well. The great thing about that mammoth is it's not just a rider, you've also got like his crew on the back there. I really like this set, and again, if I was more into dwarves or wanting to do like a skirmish game or something like that, I would be checking out Artisan Guild. They make really good, well pre-supported sculpts. I've supported them in the past before and I really like their models, and these are really good as well. Next up, we've got Parasite Collectibles, and I'm going through my notes as I go through this and sometimes I forget them, but Ring Wraith was written on here. Now granted, they're not going to call it a ring wraith because it's going to get them sued. But you can all see where this is going. This is a really nice sculpt. I really like this. And although it's got a lot of ring wraith aesthetic going for it, it's not completely ripping off the ring wraiths. It's got its own unique bits going as well. And why wouldn't it let me click out of this? Here we go. And then you've got them on foot. And this is a really nice sculpt. I really like it. And the base here as well that goes with it. There's a lot to like about this. It's a lovely looking sculpt. Very well done. If you're playing Lord of the Rings tabletop, fantastic. But even if you're just collecting an undead army or you want something that's a bit weird and different. So that's Parasite Collectibles with their not ring wraith. Next, we've got Highlands Miniatures, and they're like my favourite fantasy creators. And if you're into orcs and goblins and grinskins at the moment, then you should be subscribed to them. This month, they've got goblins, and some more goblins. You've got the Goblin Chariot, you've got your Wolf Riders, you've got your arrows. You've just got so much, and I love the look of this captain they've got here as well. So if you go through those, you've got all your Goblin Regiment, you've got all your Goblin Cavalry, you've basically got all the stuff you could need for a Goblin army. I love the look of these Wolf Riders. I printed off all of their Savage Orcs last month, and now I just need to paint them, but I printed off too many, so it's going to take me a little while. But I need to print these off as well because they look So good, and like printed off, they look fantastic. I'm absolutely here for it. If you're into orcs and goblins and greenskins, then you absolutely need to be subscribed to Highlands Miniatures at the moment. Love this pose. It's, again, they've got a really nice balance of like Warhammer Fantasy and Old World and that style that Games Workshop are known for, but putting their own spin on it as well. It's holding a Bretonnian's head there. Sometimes I don't like it when they're holding or standing on the dead enemy because it almost feels like it limits you, but he could be carrying that helmet around everywhere he goes. It doesn't necessarily need to be fighting some Bretonnians. So that is Highlands Miniatures and their Goblin set. I'm here for it. Again, these look fantastic. You've got such a range of good stuff there. You can swap out the weapons and all of that. But moving swiftly on, because otherwise this video is going to become very long, we've got Fleshcraft Studios. So this is Fleshcraft Studios, and I'd written here that there were 2 war bands. And yes, here we go. So you've got these like zombies. But the thing that I really liked about these zombies when I saw them, and I've never heard of these guys before, and I found them when I was doing my browsing, is they just look different to all the other zombies that I've seen out there. They're a little cartoony, which some people will like and some people won't, but I really like the look of these. Well posed, they look good, nice amount of detail on there. Love these dogs. Instead of being like wolves, like you always get with undead, got these dogs instead. Really like this carriage as well. It all looks good, and this big like Colossus thing with everything strapped in. Looks nice, grotesque and gory. And I really like this guy. Can we zoom in? I'll zoom in the video so it doesn't look awful quality. But I do really like them. The only thing that concerns me about these is their arms look kind of spindly. So I guess we'll have to see how well supported they are and if they break, but really like that. But along with that as well, it's not just the zombies. We also have this like Under the Sea, the Deepborn set as well. So if you're going for like 2 war bands, that'd be really fun. You could print off 2 sets. You could paint a set, your friend could paint a set. And I like these. Again, these are a little bit more realistic than the zombies. I know that makes no sense. I'm talking about pirates and zombies and everything. But they seem less cartoony, but I really like them. Very well sculpted, look very nice, good amount of detail on there. And then you've got like Shark Warrior and Lobster Man and just a lot going for it. So if you're into your warband gaming, this might be worthwhile checking out. So next up, we've got Gallard. And I really liked these when I saw them. Overall, it's a whole bunch of knights, but with a bit of a unique twist, like aesthetic on them. So these look really nice. And again, if you're into Old World at the moment, Age of Sigmar, it'd be really good fun to paint up. But I love these. I mean, here's like one of your kind of main base knights. And they've got these like gas mask type like face plates on. So they're these medieval style knights, but with this almost World War II aesthetic. I really like these. I think they look just, I don't know, it's hard to explain. When I saw these, at first glance, I was like, okay, it's just another bunch of knights. But then when I saw the heads, it just completely changed them. And even right down to like the pouches and stuff. It's like they've taken medieval and they've taken like World War I and World War II and slammed them together. And they've come out with something that actually looks really unique and kind of fun. I really like these. I think they look fantastic, the whole lot. So you get all these different knights. You get this lady commander here as well. Very well posed. Looks fantastic. She looks more like your traditional type of medieval fantasy knight compared to the others. But I really like those. Those masks absolutely sell it. They're so different to anything else that I've seen recently. So that's Gallard. And I'm kind of tempted to get those. But again, I need to just avoid getting too many models. So next up, we've got One Sin for Seven Kingdoms. And this, from what I remember, had a lot going for it. In my notes, I've written that it was Chaos and Elves, but I'm sure there was a lot more there. Again, I've never backed these. I've never printed anything from them, so I'm not too sure what they're like to use. So let me know in the comments. But I love the look of all these renders and sculpts. There's some really good stuff if you're a Chaos player. And when we come onto it, there we go. Some really nice stuff as well if you're into like High Elves and stuff like that. They're very well posed, and I like the fact that everything looks not easy to paint, but they don't have like horrifically stupid details that you just don't want to get into. A lot of that looks like it would do really nicely with just like a base coat and then just a bit of a dry brush and then some really nice washes over it. I think you'd be able to do a pretty good job relatively simply on some of these. Then you've got like your standard Chaos Warriors as well. I really like those. Again, there's enough detail on there that it doesn't become complicated, but they still will look really good. And I also like the fact that the weapons are quite chonky, and I like chonky weapons on resin 3D print because we all know that resin 3D printing can be a little bit brittle. So when we come on to the D&D stuff later on, honestly, I don't particularly like D&D style sculpts because they lean into that ultra realism, which means they've got thin, fiddly parts that break. With these, they're nice and chonky, and everything seems to be well sculpted. There's a couple there where they're holding their weapons out and stuff, but even that, like the poleaxe here, you've got a big shaft, which I probably shouldn't say on YouTube or I might get demonetized, but they got really big shafts and they're not gonna break. Oh my god, I need to think of a better way of saying that. And then moving on again, you've got your elves as well. Very, very nicely sculpted. I really like these. There's a lot here to like. I love this commandery guy here with his, musician and banner bearer. And then same again for the elves. And then going alongside the elves, I don't know what's going on with this guy here. And he's got these goggles on, which I get. And then he's got a beak thing over his nose. That's wild. It's different, Props to him there. But all in all, there's a lot to like with this. So that's 1 sin for 7 kingdoms. If you're into either elves or chaos, or if you want to be able to print up 2 bands to fight, might be worthwhile checking out. And the last one on my fantasy list, and this one I really like the look of, but it also made me laugh an awful lot. So this is Last Sword Miniatures, and they're doing Beasts of Chaos, which if anyone's been following the news recently knows that died in Age of Sigmar. Games Workshop, when you're not allowed to use these models in here anymore. Get out, you peasants, and go play Old World instead. You still can, they're going to make rules for them, but as of like next year, you won't be able to cause loads of controversy. Not necessarily the Beasts of Chaos, but you know what I mean. So I thought this was really funny that this has come out and they look great. I really like them. There's a lot here to like. Just seems like really unfortunate timing for them that they brought out these, like Beastmen and Beasts of Chaos, at a time when Age of Sigmar have basically just axed them. Still play them in Old World or any other tabletop game as well, so don't worry too much. But I like these. There's a lot here to like. Modular as well, so you can swap out the different weapons and bits like that. Very, very nice little set here. And then like an example here of the different bits, so you can change out the heads and the arms and stuff like that. So there's a lot to like from this one. If you're into Beasts of Chaos or Beastmen and you want something different for your army, then yeah, give these ones a go. Next up, we are moving on to the sci-fi bits as well. I didn't get quite as much as I did with the fantasy ones here, but there's some really good stuff going. So let's load up the first one. So first on my list was a Crippled God Foundry, and I really like these, and also as well, they do have all the fantasy stuff as well, so I didn't throw them into my fantasy list because they look fun, but not necessarily my cup of tea, but there they are. You've got some mushroom men and mushroom ladies as well, but you've got these Marines, and I really like these. So basically they're going for Chaos, of course, but you also get some Chaos Marines, you also get some Chaos terrain to go with it as well. I actually like what they've done with the Chaos Marines here, so let's skip to that. Here we go, so here's your Chaos Marines. Well posed, they look very, I don't know, a nice blend of modern 40k and old 40k. I really like the look of these, they look good, they look nice on the tabletop as well, well posed, detailed enough, and a lot to like from this one. But then again, you also get all of your terrain there as well. So if you want some terrain for your 40k, that's all going to be included with this. So that is Crippled God Foundry. If you're into Chaos, then yeah, worthwhile checking out. So next up is a creature I hadn't heard of before called Unit 9. And I threw this one in here. I don't know how well they would fit with anything. If you're into 40k, for example, they probably wouldn't fit that well. But I just like them. There's a lot to like here. There's a lot of cyberpunk aesthetic here. A lot of really nicely posed and detailed miniatures. And I threw it in here just because it's a bit random. You've got your bike riders, you've got your random like bionics and all of that. Little walker as well. It's random and it might not fit with anybody's wargaming out there. But if you are doing any sort of like tabletop RPG, which is sci-fi, or if you just want some of these as like proxies to go in an army just to use randomly for something else, I like these. There's a lot here to like, so worthwhile checking out. And then next on the list, we've got Den of Imagination, and they were on my last month's list as well, and I really like those. And I really like these ones as well. You've got so much going on here. You don't get a huge amount of models, but the ones you get, yes. I mean, you've got, is it the Hellbrute for 40k? And these look suitably horrific. Big, old, heavy dreadnought style stuff, with the poor Marine just desperately clinging on in there and looking utterly tortured. And these big old beasties, which I guess you could use as Terminators for your Plague Marines, they look really nice. I love the look of these, and the more and more I see of this sort of thing, the more and more and more I want to do like a 40k Nurgle army. But last month I just started a 40k Emperor's Children army, so I absolutely should not fall into this. But these look great. There's so much to like about these. Love those dreadnoughts. When I did this list, I'd only seen the dreadnought because they hadn't shown off the Marines, and already I was sold. These look just fantastic. There we go. So you've got your Marines here, and just like the way that they've done the weapons in this sort of like bio-organic with the weapon coming out of it is suitably Nurgle. You could have so much fun painting these. They look horrific. They also look fantastic. I absolutely love these. They're just, yeah, absolutely fantastic. Horrendous. Utterly horrendous. And last on my sci-fi list is Galactic Armory. Now this probably, again, wouldn't fit particularly well. You could maybe use it as a guardsman type of army, or just some random units to go in with some like Space Marines, or if you're playing something like one-page rules, they would fit nicely with that. But they've done Helldivers, and Helldivers is such a good game. I love the original one. It finally picked up the second one, and I love that as well. So why not serve someone up a cup of Liberty and get these? I'm really tempted. I also saw that Emang has come back on the scene as well, and he's done a Helldivers Walker, which is worthwhile checking out, and that's free as well, so you don't need to subscribe to anything for that. Love these. They look great. Absolutely. If they continue doing this and making more Helldivers type stuff, I'm here for it. I would absolutely love it. I'd love a Helldivers minigame. That would be fantastic. Imagine all the friendly fire and madness you could add to that. Ooh, makes me kind of want that now. So moving on to the next section, which is D&D. Now this one's always going to be quite similar to fantasy, but I figured I would do something different. Because like I mentioned at the start, D&D doesn't always do it for me just because they make some beautiful sculpts. I love those D&D creators, but I'm always just mindful that sometimes they break and become a bit fidgety. But if you're into D&D, which every so often I do finally get to play a game of D&D, it's nice to have some of these minis. First one up is Mammoth Factory Games, and anyone who's watched the channel for a while knows I've done some stuff for them in the past. The reason why I like this is because it's the Wild Hunt Part 2. And the Wild Hunt original one that they did was one of the first sets that I fully painted up, and there were some fantastic things in that. And again, they've done a really good job of taking the theme of that first set that they did and adding extra bits to it. So if you are either wanting to do like a D&D adventure, which this comes with, or if you wanted to use it as like a warband, or just expand an army, for example, there's some really, really good stuff in here. You've got this awesome dragon. Like this forest dragon looks really, really nice. I love the way it's all like this tree, and you've got all like the wood towards the bottom, then you've got all these leaves on the wings, and kind of contrasting to the dragon I talked about earlier, like Chaos Dragon, which had not so great looking wings. I think the wings look really good on this. They've done a really good job of sculpting that. And then you've got this big old boy here, which again, be a lot of fun to paint up and add to your army. And there's just a lot of stuff here that's really nice. And I can definitely see myself painting, just because I've got the original set, so I would quite like to add some of these to it as well. The other thing that I've noticed as well about this is all of the weapons and like the arrows and stuff like that are a little bit chunkier than they ever used to be before. So when I mentioned earlier about some of the D&D stuff being a little bit too fragile, they seem to have changed that, which is interesting, because that's always been my bugbear when it comes to D&D type stuff. I love this guy. Look at him. He's so random. There, yep. There's some really good stuff here. And again, look at the texture of all this like leaf cloak and everything else. You can have a lot of fun with this set. So that's the Wild Hunt Part 2 by Mammoth Factory Games. So next up is Claymore Miniatures, and on this one my very detailed description just says bunch of heroes and monsters. So they've done this heist at Dragon's Keep, and if we load that up, I really like this one because although it is themed around having like an adventure and you'll get all of that to come with this, I felt that there was a really nice mix of stuff here. that would be great for different types of adventure. So depending if you're a dungeon master and you want to have loads of different stuff, there's a lot of really nice stuff here. I think this dragon looks really nice. It's a really nice pose. It's not too large as well. I'm calling it a dragon. I know it's a wyvern. How do you say wyvern? I say wyvern, and some people say like wyvern. And I'm going to get merged in the comments. But moving swiftly on, before you all pull me apart for that, there's some really nice sculpts here. And like the detail on this, for example, just looks, the way they've done like this leather padding, but then all the texture for the leather. And I like it when they do this. I know sometimes you might look at that model, for example, and go, there's so much detail there to paint on. But the great thing is when they've got that much texture and stuff like that, you can really get away with just doing a couple of base coats and blocking in some colour, then a dry brush, and then throwing in a couple of washes, and it then seeps into all of those bits. Because they've already added the texture to the model, it really takes paint very nicely. I really like the look of that. And there's a lot in this set. You've got Cat Wizard. Love that. You've got Snake Assassin. Again, love that. They're really characterful. I don't know what that is. A golem with a bell on his head. It's insane. I really like these. They're the standard stuff that you probably want to have in pretty much any type of adventure. And there's just so much here that's really, really nice. I mean, he's looking pretty nasty. He's got himself some nasty looking dogs. And one's eating an arm. And he's up and he's ready for stabbing. And he's on his own. It's a good collection. There's a lot here to like. Again, depending if you just want to get something to print off to give to your players, if you want some different NPCs to have, some enemies to fight, there is no idea what's going on there. But yeah. So yeah, that is Claymore Miniatures. And if you're into D&D and you just want a whole load of different random stuff, worthwhile checking out. Okay, next we've got Dragon Trapper's Lodge, and this might have been one of my favourite ones on here. Journey through the Direlands and the Moon Enclave. Now, my description for this one has funky horses and killer squirrels. And yes, it has funky horses and it has killer squirrels. So let's get onto the here we go. So the overview here. So your welcome pack that you get with them. Where are my killer squirrels? But there's a lot going on here. So again, you get all sorts of different NPCs, different characters you can use. Stag, if you want to have that in there. Some turtles. Your dire bear. And here we come onto it. The dire squirrels. I mean, that's incredible. Right there. That is, yes. Squirrels that will kill you and eat you. I mean, this one here, he's eating a human. There's a lot of people eating or carrying human hands, I've noticed this month. Must be like an April theme, but these are fantastic. These are really, these have got to be some of my favourite things that I've seen this month, because they're just random. They're really, really random. They've got turtle shells. They do have, like, turtle shells. That's just, yeah. And I can't remember what the funky horse thing was about. He's fun. But I've written that we've got funky horses, so... Oh, there they are. Dire horses. I really like these sculpts. They look so interesting. Like how massive those horses are, and then with all of this like reptile scale and stuff like that on there. These look really, really nice. And you get them without the riders as well. So if you wanted to add these to like your army or something else, I could see that being a really fun project, taking these horses and adding them into something random that already exists. So that is a Dragon Trapper's Lodge to get yourself some killer squirrels and some very funky horses. Okay, and last on my list for D&D is this set by STL Miniatures. And I really like these again for being able to give you a little bit more flavour to some of your campaigns and stuff like that. So you've got this set of orphanage, basically. So you get all these kids and you get all these bits to go with it. I think that could add some really fun narrative to some different campaigns and stuff like that. And then you also get another part of this set as well, which is this like dwarven camp. So you've got all the kind of like buildings to put up there. You've got the entrance to the cave, and then you've got all the like the dwarven miniatures to go with it as well. It's maybe not the most unique thing in the world, but I like the way these look. There's some really good poses there, nice amount of detail, and I like the different buildings and stuff that come with it. I always like it when like your D&D creators, or any of the creators in fact, take like your miniatures for the set, but then also give them some terrain to go with it, because it helps to add a bit more story and narrative and all of that fun stuff to the set that you're painting up. And I personally like that. I know it's not going to be for everybody, but for me, I really like that. So that is STL miniatures. You can get your dwarf camp and also a little orphanage set. Moving on to the terrain. First up, we've got Forbidden Prince, and they are doing some Tau stuff. So basically, you get this big set here. You've got this like Tau fortress with all these guns. Got all the different gun encampments as well. So if you want to have like that to spice up your 40k or anything like that, there's some really nice stuff to go there. Looks like it'd be pretty beefy. So you're probably better off doing this on like an FDM printer. But I guess if you're looking at terrain, you're probably already in FDM printing, or you have something really massive in terms of resin. Good thing is that looks pretty simple to print off on an FDM printer without too much hassle, but also detailed enough that, again, you can just spray it silver, do a bit of dry brushing and all of that. But I don't normally see much in terms of like Tau terrain, so it's nice to see something a bit different. Next up, if you're looking for something in the fantasy section, we've got Dark Realms, and they're doing all of these destroyed houses, which I think would be really good if you're playing, well, if you're playing anything to do with fantasy, but if you're playing like Warcry and you want to add some verticality to your gaming. I never remember the actual name for this, but being able to go up and down rather than just, 2D. You've got a lot of play space here, so you could put like your archers and stuff up here. You can have a bit of battle inside the buildings, which I know you can do with like normal buildings, because a lot of the time you can pop off the roof and stuff like that, but it's not quite as much fun. I think it would add a nice amount of variety. So there's a lot of stuff here. You can print it off pretty easily. It's really nice looking. I think it would just add a lot to pretty much anything. Even if you're doing like D&D, you could stumble across like a destroyed village. If you're doing fantasy, like wargaming, you could add this as like part of the middle of the map, and there's just a big old fight in the middle. But then again, if you're doing like your skirmish gaming, I really like the look of this. There's a lot here to like, so worthwhile having a look at. Next up, we've got Miniaturelands, and they're doing a Viking seaside village, which I think is really fun. You've got all of the walls to go around the side. You've got your docks. You get some boats, you get some houses, you get a big old gate. I think that could be quite fun. Again, if you're doing D&D, a great place to visit. If you're doing wargaming, something to have on the coast that you're going to fight over. There's a lot here to like. You get a lot here for your money as well, which is always nice. Seeing it there from a few different angles. Like I said, you get all your buildings and bits like that. I think that would be a lot of fun. It'd be a really interesting project to do. I would like to, but I'm already doing too many board builds at the moment, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But if you are into Vikings, or you want to have something to maybe go alongside, I don't know, one of your armies, or like I said, D&D campaign type stuff, worthwhile checking out. And the last one on my terrain list is Gothic things, and I've written Castle Warcry style terrain, and yes, here it is. This looks like it would be a lot of fun. It didn't make much sense in my head, the way it's laid out there, but it's all like printed in different parts, and again, add some verticality to your game. So if you're playing a skirmish game, playing Warcry, something like that, it's nice because you can have all your different units all over the place. You don't need much space as well on your game table, because you could just have it basically going up and up and up and up. I like this. It looks fun. I really, really like it. A lot of the time I really want to print a castle, but the problem is your castle takes up loads of space and doesn't really add too much to the actual, like, I don't know, the gameplay style of it. Something like this, you could really go wild with like creating some odd layouts and just, yeah, having a lot of fun with. So that is Gothic things and their little random castle Warcry style terrain. Now I've thrown in another section here, and I've only had one creator for this, and this is my random section where I find something weird that you could play with. I like this. I've subscribed to it because I'm weak, and I gave in as soon as I saw it. They've got all of these fun props. Now, if you have like an Etsy store or something like that, they've got some really decently priced commercial licenses, so just bear that in mind. But you've got things like dice vaults, you've got your dice towers, you've got this big old dice tower here. But the thing that drew me to this was this candy machine. And basically, you're meant to put loads of dice in there, and you can turn it, and the dice roll out. I think that's really fun. It's different. You always see dice towers, but you don't see candy dispensers. So yeah, it's worthwhile checking out. So that's Fate's End with the random props, dice towers and everything else. And like I said, if you are a merchant and you're selling stuff, you've got some pretty decent prices. Moving on to the final thing, and that is the Kickstarters. And I found two that I really like the look of. The first one is this blacksmith's forge, and I like the look of this. Now, I printed a blacksmith's forge not so long ago, and it was alright. It was kind of basic, but I like this. It's just nicely laid out. It looks really nicely detailed. Lots of little accessories that go with it as well. I think that would be fantastic again if you are doing some D&D and you wanted to add something a bit more flavourful to your game. You could throw it into wargaming as well. No harm in that. If you're building out a village and stuff like that, it looks nice. I really like this. I think it would go well with a lot of different types of fantasy gaming. And the last one for my Kickstarters is this. Now, you may have seen a video where I did a 3D printed display case. Well, this is a display case and a carrying case, which I think is really fun. It seems to be all the rage at the moment, like 3D printed display cases. It was the Omni, I think, was the first one that kind of did it. So now you've got this, which is a display case, which you can then put on a wall or put on a desk or something like that. Or you've got the option as well to add like this handle to it. So if you want to be able to carry all your stuff back and forth, you've got paint trays as well that can go in there. So you can put all your paint holders like down the bottom here, then all your miniatures here as well. So you're going like back and forth between friends, or if you're going to like your local game store, you could then take all of this with you. I think it's a neat idea. You're going to get all of that customization option because you're in control of the parts that you 3D print. Oh no, I really like this. And pricing wise, I didn't actually look too much, but you've got, yeah, it's not badly priced. Like £36, 36 Brexit doubloons there, and you get the whole lot. So all in all, it's a really well priced set as well. There's a lot here to like. Definitely worth having a look at if you need a case. If you want a display case, if you want a carrying case or anything like that, it's worthwhile checking them out. There's bits you have to add yourself, obviously like your different perspex shelves and stuff. But once you get to grips with how these print out, they're not too bad. There's so many customization options, especially into things like Legions Imperialis, because that's really hard to find stuff that fits for nicely, because it's so tiny. But because you're in control of how slim the gap is between the shelves and stuff like that, you get so many customization options. So that is my April roundup. Now granted, there will probably be things that come out throughout April as well. But that's, I guess, the nature of these videos. Because I'm doing it now, I'll miss out some stuff that comes out later on. But that's what we've got so far. Let me know in the comments anything that you like this month. Anything that you've seen on my list that you'll also be subscribing to. Anything that I've missed off that you think I should be covering as well. Are there any hidden creators as well that I'm missing? Because there's sometimes ones that I've not seen or I miss out and I'll check them out. And let me know, like I said at the start of this video, do you want these as separate videos? Because I'm very aware that this video and the last video will be long videos. And I'll do my best to keep them timestamps and everything else as well. But would you rather have a separate one for fantasy, a separate one for sci-fi, a separate one for Kickstarters for the month and stuff like that? Because I can do that and just split these videos up. So let me know in the comments what you'd like to see from these going forward. And hopefully I will see you in the next one. Enjoy your 3D printing and your painting and all of your hobby joys. I will see you soon. Bye.